Yes, I do find time for me, and I try to do so each and every day. I sit and I meditate, or I sit and come to grips with how me, truly feel about a subject. I think for myself. I find that sitting in and around nature is best for me. I enjoy the solitude in places like this. I agree with the sage that said that each of us should meditate at least 30 minutes a day. Unless, of course, you're really busy, then you should meditate at least 1 hour each day. Isn't it interesting that we're willing to work 8 hours a day at 10, 20, $30 an hour, and yet we are reluctant to invest 1 hour in ourselves? Aren't you just as important as your employer? Aren't you worth the time? There's a theory that the less time you spend thinking for yourself, the better a servant or slave you are to your master. You don't realize it, of course, because you never put yourself first, and that's unfortunate. Maybe, after all, we are conditioned not to do so. A major college just concluded a study about goals and happiness. When young, it found, it is assumed that fame and fortune are the goals and a formula for happiness. As one gets older, of course, one realizes that money has very little to do with happiness, and that money is a poor substitute for really good relationships. Multiple intercourse with others. Of course, I'm not necessarily talking about sexual intercourse. As you get older, one tends to realize that being a good human being is a lot better than being a good worker for somebody else. I believe that happiness is a function of self-realization, being true to oneself and not being dependent on others or things. The college study concluded that a good relationship is an answer to happiness, that loneliness shortens one's life and is a major contributor to unhappiness. I do agree that loneliness is a major problem. To be clear, I'm not talking about being alone, but the feeling of loneliness which adds to boredom. So, speaking of relationships, I do have my own theories. I think monogamous relationships have their place, but it is restrictive. That is, it can be restrictive. I do understand there's a sense of security that comes with being owned by another person, at least the sense of being owned by another person. But is it the only answer for a healthy relationship? I'm not promoting, please do understand, that I'm not promoting promiscuity. On the contrary, I am promoting relationships based on inclusion and sharing. What do I mean? Just this. As an adult, the freedom to be yourself and to share your company should be a given. The spontaneity to do and to be with whomever you wish should not be a cause for confrontation. For example, my ex-wife enjoys traveling. We also enjoy each other's company, and we do have children together. Should she not be free and to be able to say, let's go places? Of course, whether or not she would actually do that is quite another discussion. Right about now, you're saying that the solution is not to be in a relationship. I say, on the contrary, I am promoting healthy relationships, not ownership. As adults, there should be freedom of discussions and freedom to set boundaries. No sex, for example, is a boundary. There are so many other ways to have intercourse. The exchange of ideas, the dealing with others, the interactions with groups, etc. Open your mind, allow for unrestricted ideas on what relationships should be. On a personal level, of course, I do love solitude, but I also love sharing the space and time with other nature-loving, like-minded, progressive, open-minded people. On a personal level, in intimate settings, I prefer the company of women to the company of men. That's just my own personal choice. Being on a path of enlightenment, and nothing would please me more than to be in the company of a woman guru for a weekend retreat. The things that I could learn. After all, in listening to the news, I get the impression that there's still a great chasm between understanding men and women and understanding each other. So what's the point of all this? Just this. I'm sharing ideas that may or may not be to your liking, and that is very good. You, after all, should think for yourself.